Hey, welcome to another episode of my little podcast over to you, my little corner of the world to yours. It is Monday, June 17th, 2024, and today it's known as National Take Your Cat to Work Day. That's a mouthful. It's also known as Anti-Drought Day as well. So those are two things that are on my mind today. If you can take your cat in there, by all means do it. It's really nice to have a little comfort animal to bring in to your workspace. I don't know what you would do about the kitty litter or let the cat go wherever. Who knows? But if you want to take your cat in there today, this is the day to do it. If you're working from home, that's a great deal. I have a cat next door that likes to come over and visit, so I got those bases covered. Anyway, I have a great show today. I have a great artist. His name is Tim Easton. He's done a lot of work over the years. He's out with a great new release called Find Your Way. He recorded that up in British Columbia in the little village of Victoria, beautiful little town there. Once visited many moons ago. So really, we had a great talk. We actually have a connection going back to the Cleveland, Akron market, as many know here, or some don't know. I grew up in the greater Cleveland area. Tim actually grew up or spent much of his time growing up in the Akron, Ohio area, which is not terribly far from Cleveland. It's pretty much the same market. We kind of get into that a little bit, talk about a little bit of the good old days, had a little bit of a connection there. Everything always comes back to Bruce Springsteen somehow. Everything always circles into that world. But yeah, Tim, finally, I was able to get a hold of him. We had a few hiccups trying to connect. He actually toured throughout all of or much of Japan, a good deal of that country. He spent a lot of time there. They seem to love him over there. Great new release, new LP gives everybody the full travel type experience. And he gets into that. He worked extensively with Lucinda Williams and most of Wilco. I don't really get too much into Wilco. Great guy named Mike Campbell, who some people might know. We talk a little bit about that. He also did some busking in Paris and Prague back in the day. Great guy. We had a really good talk. He has been on an extensive tour as I speak through spring 2024 and into summer 2024. Uh, really, really just can get out there, travels, and loves doing it and loves recording. So I really hope you enjoy my talk with Tim Easton on National Take Your Cat to Work Day.
I am so sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I was kind of joking with our PR person, Wendy. That's like, yeah, not the first time. I've been doing this for a while now. So
Yeah, sorry
kind
about
of used to that in a sense. And you were on the road. That's the whole thing.
that.
I'm looking at the schedule and it's just incredible. That's a lot of traveling. I
It
kind of
is.
lost my travel mojo over the since the pandemic. So I'm looking at this and I'm really impressed, I have to say.
Cheers. Yeah, and then I had like a bank card snafu just now where I was dealing with bank stuff, and then I didn't realize it was this late in the day already. So I'm here now, and appreciate thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, you're all over the place. You did a Japanese tour, so and that's very very interesting to see that. How are the
Yeah.
audiences in Japan?
Amazing audience is quiet,
Yeah.
and my brain, my jet lag brain is finally catching up with American time, but the audience is so cool over there. They're very calm and they don't really, I don't tell stories during the show over there. So I just play a lot more songs is what turns out happening. But great audiences, great people, great merch buyers. They still buy CDs over there. That's kind of fun. And yeah, it's a really fortunate thing I get to do all because of a set I played at South by Southwest a while ago and this live album I made. This Japanese promoter who only takes on a few artists. He takes on like me and Matt the electrician and a few others. He doesn't really do it for a living. It's kind of folk based, right? He's got his clubs, his connections, and I follow him around. We get on trains and ramble around and play these gigs. It's really fun.
Yeah, that really is. It looks very extensive. So you just fell into just working in Japan. Was that something that you'd been doing for many years?
Well, I did live there as a kid, but no, this
Yeah.
is just the promoter. He likes my stuff, and people try to get me to connect with him all the time, but it's like he just has his things that he likes, and he runs a business in Kamakura called Cafe Goatee, and
Nice.
that's what he does. That's his job. And then every now and then he takes a folk singer around Japan. It's not a full time thing for him, and but it's really lucky for me that I get to be one of the folk singers that does it because he really loves food and music, and we just travel around on trains and eat good snacks and good
Uh,
meals and enjoy our life, the culinary life of Japan.
yeah, it's very interesting. I love that food, I'm sure.
Top
So
notch.
how
Yeah.
did you do that growing up going into to Japan? Was that something
Well,
with your
as a kid, I
family?
didn't care for it. As a
Yeah.
kid, you don't really like raw fish.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not
Yeah.
it's not for kiddos. Although my daughter, she likes it. She's 13. So I didn't like it when I was in the second, third, and fourth grade living there. I preferred McDonald's to raw fish. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, like Mickey D's, that was always like comfort food to us growing up here in the
Yeah, I
States.
mean, it was for me, it was a foreign thing. I didn't even know what it was, and over there they called it Makudano dos.
Oh,
But whatever. As a kid, you're just picky and fussy as a kid. You don't know what's good.
that's so true. I remember growing up and saying, I don't want foreign food. I like, that was like
Yeah,
just how we grew up.
yeah. And they're like, mac and cheese is, yeah, mac and cheese and chicken fingers or whatever, just basic, cereal. Like that's what you eat as a kid, and there's no surprise. Some kids got the expanded palate, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, and it's much different these days, and it's great your daughter's really into that.
Yeah.
And I think we just, their horizons are definitely more broadened these days than it was for us back then.
Yeah, I didn't even know, what, Mexican food or Thai food was as a kid. It's like, or pho, or Vietnamese pho,
Yeah,
and
it's
all these
great.
yeah, it's like stuff
Uh,
when you're a kiddo, you just don't care about that stuff, and then later on in life, it becomes everything.
yeah. Did you travel in other places like Vietnam and
I've
played
never been
in?
to Vietnam, and it is on a bucket list thing for me. There in Cambodia, I really want to go there, and I
Yeah.
really want to go to Thailand, and then Chile and Madagascar are like my top like bucket, just kind of places that I'm interested in for whatever's in Chile more for the writers, the poets, and I like, the historical topsy turviness of that nation and what happened
Oh,
between the different political factions there, and it's and artistically and poetically, it's just got a rich culture that I want to get close to.
yeah, and music brings it all together. It's just amazing you can
Huh?
go anywhere as far away as Japan and they're listening to it as if we're talking the same language.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really nice.
American folk singers are probably bigger in Japan than they are in Chile. Chile is still resistant to anything American getting jammed down its throat, unless it's Nirvana or something. They're not really interested there. They've got their own insular communities of folk and art, and I mean, we we screwed them over, by
Oh,
support. We supported the wrong guy.
yeah, yeah, really really supportive. And wasn't it basically Henry Kissinger basically was who went down there and basically was
Yeah, yeah, a
chumming up
couple.
with.
Yeah, he's responsible for some dark stuff in the Middle East and in Chile. Yeah, I mean, you could say it's Kissinger, but he was just the messenger of the State Department, correct? I mean,
Oh, sure, sure.
the
Yeah.
under the law, the direction was coming from someone else.
Yeah, it happened with that. It was just part of the culture, and he was doing
Yeah.
his job. I remember being in college, and it was all about the Contras, not a penny to the Contras. People were sitting there protesting. That was like the biggest thing in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, and El Salvador got all that. Like that was just a thing that was an American policy there of trying to squash political activities. And yeah, Kent State is something people. in Ohio, they like to blame Governor Jim Rhodes. It never goes all the way up to Nixon, but it's the
Yeah.
same. It's like the boss is to be, you know, uh, they have to take responsibility for it, and some of them never did. And Kent State is one of those things that, if you study American history, it's an
Oh yeah.
important part. And since I'm from that area, Akron, um, it comes up. It comes up a lot. The anniversary just happened, and it's just
Yep.
intense. If you think about the National Guard coming in and shooting
Yeah.
American students, um, that certainly the Latin students, know of this story. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Cleveland. I'm
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
suburb of South Euclid. I've
Right.
been gone from that area well over 3 decades.
Yeah.
But I remember like, that very well growing up, and I went to Ohio U, and I remember there were
Okay.
protests way back then. I was reading about how it kind of got violent in certain places. So
Did. Yeah, they were, at Ohio State, they repaved the oval was covered in bricks, and they repaved it because kids were pulling the bricks up and throwing them at the National Guard. And yeah, that time of protesting the war, there's a similar thing kind of going on now, and but it's just handled way differently in the media and in the world. Back then, it probably did feel like things were falling apart or a little more unsteady, or maybe there was a little more popular support to help end the draft and sending people to Vietnam. As where today we're not even in that war, but we're sending lots of money and stuff like that. So it's like people have a right to protest, and I like actually am proud that we will speak our minds and that we have the right to do it. And so I support that on both sides really, because it's impressive, because I've been to Russia, I've been
oh
to
my
Cuba.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to Russia before the pandemic, before the war that they're
Yeah.
involved in right now. And they don't have the same freedom of speech as we did. I asked a Russian guy who loved the blues, loved Muddy Waters, loved American music. I asked him, "Hey, do you have any?" Because he said to me something like, "Good luck with Mr. Trump," and I was like,
Oh my
"Well, good
gosh.
luck with your dude, you know, good luck,
Exactly.
good luck with that guy." And he's like, "Yeah, that's fair." And I said, "Do you have any? Let me ask you something. Do you have any late night comedians that rip Putin a new one on a nightly
Yeah.
basis?" And he's like, "We had one guy. I don't know what happened to him."
Exactly. They
Yeah, we
disappear.
have four. We have four or five or more. We're allowed to say what we want. And people, don't have to agree with Stephen
Sure.
Colbert or his
Right.
writers or Jimmy Kimmel, but and they have on the opposite side. They have whatever Greg got. They have comedians that attack Biden as well. And the thing about we're free to do these things, and we take it for granted, man. I'm telling you, if you
Yeah.
could just see what it's really like in a place where they are not free to speak their minds, like you and I are free right now to speak our minds.
Yeah. Over
it's a,
there,
it's
yeah.
a different it's a different vibe.
It's terrible. And people just have a funny habit of dying around Putin. It's just it never stops. It
Yeah,
just
and,
it's
and we're allowed to talk about it, and not be in fear about it. We're allowed to say something about the president, or or Kissinger, and we're allowed to say things without fear of reprisal just because of
yeah.
our words. Now,
Hmm.
that can get carried away on both sides, I will say. Like, people get afraid of words and they get freaked out. And it's like, really, it's like, you just disagree with someone, just state that you disagree. You don't have to like melt down just because someone used some language that um, offended you or whatever. And which it happens all the time. It happens on both sides. And
Yeah.
um, it's I'm super outspoken about how grateful we should be for having it, because some people don't. A lot of people don't. And
Yeah.
I didn't cover all of Africa,
Uh,
and in certain parts of Mexico as well. Like right in Mexico, people are afraid to say certain things because they don't want to offend either the police or the cartel, and it's like they're stuck in this place that American citizens, sometimes I feel like we don't know how great we have it. And I wish we could see third world countries, just so we could like get back together and say, okay, we got a good thing going here, let's not mess it up, let's like work
yeah.
together.
Well, let's hope we don't. And yeah, this pivotal year as far as the choices we're making as far as politics goes. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this turns out
I think they're
as
all
we
pivotal
speak.
years now. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I'm actually not of the mind that the republic or the country's going to end
Nah.
if a certain guy becomes president. I don't think they can. I think if anything, it would not be great. I would not be into that, but it doesn't like make me fearful for the future of this country. I believe we actually are stronger, and I have some faith. I guess I'm just naive. I have like this like optimism,
Yeah.
poetic, romantic optimism about my country.
Yeah.
I know there's people out there that disagree with me. That's perfectly fine. We don't have to get if we resorting to violence is what you do when you have no other ways of speaking and no other ways of using your thoughts. And when the policy and politics don't work, you resort to violence, and that is a sad truth for some people, but it doesn't have to be for us. I'm afraid there's probably going to be some skirmishes here and there. That's just kind of like the nature of it. But I hope that we realize how good we have it and try to maintain it.
We obviously do. Yeah, it's very, very good. And we hope to keep it going that way. So you
Yeah.
have a great new album you're out and touring in support of, Find Your
Oh
Way.
yeah, music.
Yeah, you were actually a recording artist. What number album is this one for you?
Um, some people say it's 12, some people say it's 13. I'm
It's
gonna go with
good.
13.
Yeah.
I made a couple band albums and stuff like that, but I'm definitely over 10. I'm in the double digits, and which means if you're listening to your whatever music robot you live with, Alexa or Siri or whatever, if you tell her or tell your phone to play Tim Easton, they'll go all night long. There's like over 100 songs on Spotify and etc.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Yeah.
You're not saying, I mean, on Spotify, it's like what do you get like a hay penny for like every play or something
Yeah,
like
no,
that? But
Apple Music pays better. YouTube pays the worst. I don't even care anymore. I wish
yeah,
I did. Again, that's another one of those things where I'm like, wow, really? That it's music's free? If there was, if all of a sudden the government decided that, cakes and pies were free, I bet you a lot less people would be opening up bakeries. And
yeah.
putting, it's just the way it is, and I can accept it because I kind of like have to because otherwise I'd go crazy. Like, well, why would I? It makes you kind of go inward and work more independent. And I am a folk artist. I'm past the prime of my youth where I'd be trying to be a rock star. Really, it's like really I'm just into folk music. The scene of folk music is very connected all around the world. I've been able to go to Russia. I've been able to go to Cuba. I've been able to do really special trips, Japan, and now I can't stop writing songs. So no matter what I do, even though in my mind sometimes as I'm driving down the highways of America, I'm thinking, this is my retirement tour. I've got to be home
Getting out.
and hang out with my daughter, more. And really what's going on there is like it's the little problems of the road. Like today my credit cards or my bank card's missing and I've
Oh,
got to,
jeez.
or whatever, the road, the highway, the little minutia of the road, like the difficulties. The gigs are going great, the venues are amazing, the audiences are amazing, the merch buying is great, but I'm on my own out here, and in a way, okay, I'm a lone wolf, but I couldn't do it without the help of many people, like my friend's house who I'm staying at here in Ann Arbor, my old high school buddy, and the audiences that love the music. So I can't stop, no matter what I say in my mind. I can't stop writing songs. I can't stop writing and creating. That's what gives me joy and helps me get through life. Really, is just creativity and writing songs and cathartically, getting some release from writing songs about all the stuff that's going on in the world and being a dad. You know, and so I'm at 13 albums now and just getting warmed up.
That's great. It's a great catalog to have that many. I mean, many solo artists probably can't get to that number, so that's really good. You
That's
put,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
really
famous
nice.
people that are really successful because you're allowed to put out an album every 4 years or something, and that's not the way I do it. I'm a big fan of the Beatles' productivity and Bob Dylan and people that just keep making albums and don't look back. Um, I mean, I look back a little bit. Let's face it, but because
Yeah.
I'm a rootsy, folksy guy, folk musician. I'm always kind of talking about the heroes of my heroes, and guys like Woody Guthrie um, and their work ethic is has been a big part of my life.
Yeah, it's
It
so inspiring to
influenced my
see
life.
even these more legacy artists who are still creating. They even got Billy Joel to write a new song. So that's really
Yeah, I saw
amazing.
that. I saw yeah, he's in like the Stones are on tour.
Yeah.
Dylan's going on tour with Willie Nelson, who's 90. It's
Yeah.
these are giants in my world of I'm not going to their shows expecting to be blown away with some performance. I'm going to their show because I'm in awe that they are still doing it. And I know they get to travel a lot more comfortably
Oh,
than I
sure.
do and all that, but still it's still travel.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, let's come on, everybody out there's people out there listening to this, they're like, whoa, yeah, that's a lot of traveling. If you look at my schedule, you'd get wiped out. You would just be
Yeah,
like,
I do.
"Oh, how are you doing this?" And I, I'm, I'm not traveling rough per se, but I'm doing a lot of the work, so it can get taxing for sure. I've got a Holiday Inn Express room tonight in Goshen. Really excited to check in and do nothing.
Yeah, they got a cool venue there. I think where you could buy records. It's
Ignition Garage.
Ignition. Yeah, Ignition Garage. I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. So you've been doing it's like a lot of the Midwest.
yeah.
Obviously
I'm in the
you're
Midwest
from.
right now, and then I'm gonna head down to Texas,
Oh,
um,
cool.
Oklahoma and Texas, and then I'm going to head back up to Ohio for a little bit, and then up to Alaska. I'm going to play Woody Fest actually in back. I'm going to return to Oklahoma in July, play Woody Fest, and yeah, just an amazing amount of gigs coming up, and then Alaska, and then a little bit back to Americana Fest in Nashville, and then over to Europe for a little bit.
Oh, amazing. Well, great new album. I really like a lot of these tracks. You
Thank you so
recorded up
much.
in British Columbia, you were recording?
Yeah, I got to make this album in Canada thanks to my Canadian mother and also this great artist in Canada called Leroy Stagger. He's a songwriter, excellent friend, and he petitioned the Canadian government or wrote a grant proposal, and they accepted it. And so I got to go to Canada, make an album with an all Canadian band, and we sat in a room together at Leroy's studio, Neighborhood Studios in Victoria, in British Columbia,
Gorgeous.
and just made this folk album.
Yeah.
Which would I say that it's mostly acoustic, primarily acoustic, a little bit of pedal steel on there, and the songs go back and forth between personal narratives about my life and then observational, like short film stories, like a or feature length film crammed in a 3 minute song, like beginning, middle, drama, climax, and a story to be told, and in songs like Little Brother or Dishwasher's Blues or Arkansas, Twisted Heart. These are like little movies that I kind of put
Yeah.
in a couple of verses and a chorus, and then there's some personal songs in there too. And I only thought about it recently how I when it was asked about that, why do you think you do both? And it's because I love songwriters like the Beatles. You had Lennon and McCartney, the two prime guys. One was singing personal songs like "I Am the Walrus" or
Yeah.
In my life, and then the other guys making up characters like Eleanor Rigby and Rocky Raccoon and such. And those two things, I think that's what the permission, I guess, to kind of write like that. That and Randy Newman and John Prine and Lucinda Williams, great influences on my songwriting.
Yeah. Were they always there when you were growing up? Did you grow up in Akron? Were you kind of following them? Did you follow some of the Cleveland area bands? Weren't the
Well,
Pretenders pretty
yeah,
big?
Death of Samantha.
Yeah.
I mean, for Alex Bevan was still playing. Well, he still plays now. He just played the
Yeah.
Akron in Akron. Um, I punk rock and stuff fused in later. Like, yeah, the Beatles and the Stones were always there early. The Kinks, Beatles, Stones, British Invasion stuff, and then that. My sister had a few Grateful Dead albums, And so those bands, like if you think about it, they really pointed you back towards country and folk music. Like the Beatles would have pointed me back to, and my brothers like helped me figure this out, but like the Everly Brothers, and
Yeah.
then the Everly Brothers lead you to the Louvin Brothers, right? And the Louvin Brothers might lead you to the Delmore Brothers, and therefore Doc Watson that comes up. And then in the other side of the Beatles would lead you to the harmonious side was just it's just striking. The other side, the rock and roll side, would lead you to Chuck Berry and Little Richard. Pretty clear, distinct influences on those guys, but weren't being played on the radio, on big popular radio. And the Beatles came along and changed all that, and kind of pointed a direction of like, oh, look how great your American music is. And the Stones, of course, did the same thing with Muddy Waters, etc. And you know that I started learning to go back in time and study the people that, and I say that to young songwriters too. It's like, oh, if you love, um, Alana Del Rey, or you know, I don't know, Taylor Swift or something.
Yeah, all these ones that Billie
Yeah,
Eilish and
Billie Eilish, great example. She's a great example of who studied real jazz. Like,
yeah, very eclectic. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
absolutely. And you find out who they love.
Right.
Um, Um, what's the other one? What's the other young woman who's amazing? She's got a Latin name, the driver's license one. Spacing out on her name.
Yeah, well, these days we have oh, who's the
So
Latin one?
many.
Yeah, I know there's
She's
I know what
huge.
you're
I mean,
thinking of,
she's
yeah.
amazing. They're amazing talents, and they did study their history, and 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 yeah, these are people my daughter's listening to, and and it's just like you basically go back and listen to who they were listening to, and I did the same thing, and that's what got me on that track. And the Dead is definitely one too. Like they were pointing
Yeah.
towards folk and country music. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
people don't want to think about that. There's how it's two camps. People just don't like them, and people do. But no matter what, you can't deny that they pointed American suburban youth, or American youth, or world youth back towards Lightning Hopkins, or George Jones, or
Yeah.
Merle Haggard, Mama Tried. Like they covered Mama Tried. So the first time I heard Mama Tried was probably by the Dead, Now, my parents didn't have the country music station on. I lived in Ohio, Akron, Ohio. They could have, but they didn't.
We had WHK, which was country, and 1420, I remember that. WGAR was more of the rock station on AM.
Yeah, yeah, WG, yeah. There's WZZP, pretty big. Kid Leo was still a disc jockey when I was growing up.
Oh,
I
Kid Leo.
mean,
Remember him well.
yeah, I mean, he's on Little Steven's Underground Garage still.
Oh, does
He's
he
on.
go on there? Okay,
Oh yeah.
I've lost track of him. Kid
Oh
Leo,
man.
I go way back. He was in WMMS. He was huge with them, and I remember when Columbia guys came and they were recruiting him. I was at a restaurant, and they were
Okay.
all sitting next to me. And actually, they had served the lunch that I ordered before Kid Leo, and they gave it to Kid Leo first. They were like, and then next thing you know, he was hired at Columbia Records at that time, late '80s.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, because I got like radio voices are so cool for me, and I gotta say, Little Steven's Underground Garage station on Sirius XM is probably one of the coolest radio stations
Oh,
that ever
cool.
existed, because Little Steven and all the DJs on there, they like to tell historical stories about
Yeah.
music they love, and Tom Petty's, all the ones he recorded for his station, they still play them. I don't know how many, couple hundred they did. And Tom is a great DJ, and
Oh,
he's really
gosh.
knowledgeable, and he's funny, and when he talks about the music he's passionate about, it's just cool. And Lil Steven ties in historical things and art and culture from the era of those songs, and puts them in a place and lets you realize how intense it was to go see the Rolling Stones, when they first came through Jersey or whatever. And so I do love I don't like being dictated what I got to listen to by a computer, by an algorithm. I don't stream music very much. I appreciate it because I can play my daughter Aretha Franklin at the drop of a hat, right? But I don't just go on and just randomly get a playlist. There's enough music on. I like local radio. It's weird. I still seek out local radio wherever I go. For
Yeah.
some reason, that puts me in touch with a community in
Right.
America more than anything. And, I mean, these days, if you like a local radio station like The Summit, I just played in Akron, WAPS, or WCBE in Columbus, Ohio, the first station that ever played my music. If you like a radio station, you can listen to it wherever you are. You're in Tibet, Indonesia,
Right.
you can just the .com. It's all everything's available to you. In Nashville, we have 4 or 5 amazing independent record station radio stations.
Great community there.
It's
Yeah.
it's just like it's so good. Like the radio is so good, and I'm glad it's kind of I don't know if it's making a comeback or at all, but I love radio. I dig radio, and I like to let it show me what's going on in a community when I get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of it shows in your new music. I love this one song, Everything You're Afraid of, and I saw the music video
Oh
and
yeah.
just very eclectic, has like a Truffaut quality to it, this black and
Whoa,
white. I
that's nice
really,
of you.
really enjoy that. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I was just talking about the French directors the other day. I am a film guy. I love film, but I wouldn't have said. I just my daughter filmed that. It is the proudest thing I've ever done
Oh,
in my
cool.
life. The proudest thing I have on the internet. But I was just thinking about Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and just old goofy
Yeah, I
silent
love that
films and
stuff.
just everything. I'm afraid of like golfing. Like I'm not good at it, and kind of afraid of it. The whole culture of it. I'm just like
Yeah.
I don't jibe with it well. I admire it. It's not like I don't like it. I actually love going for walks. So the idea of just knocking a ball around while you do it. Okay, sure.
I'd be
Yes,
bored.
some of the cultural aspects of it are a little bit silly to me, or a little bit what's the word exclusive or something. Like they've kind of country clubs that like denied certain people's membership or
Yeah.
whatever because they like their religion or their color of their skin.
Oh, yeah,
Like
it
that
happened even
part
in
of it,
Cleveland. Yeah.
yeah. Oh no,
I
no, that's
remember it.
part of my youth too. I remember.
Yeah.
Not going to name names, but yeah,
I grew up near a no. Yeah.
that's the history of our country and
Yeah.
exclusive being excluding certain people and now then Tiger Woods came along and changed golf
Yeah.
forever and tennis has been changed. These sports that belong to the bourgeois or
It's
whatever
true.
been changed by Americans. So I'm not any good at golf, but I kind of like it in some weird way because it's just fun to walk outside. So I wanted to make a video where I spoofed on old Three Stooges type golfing and I did with this song, which the song is a very serious song that I'm singing to a friend of mine that's dying unnecessarily. He's drinking himself to death or something.
Mm.
And I got a few of those friends, and we all kind of do. We all know someone in our life or our family who's just like a pain in the ass,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and you don't know how to deal with it, but either shut them out, put the boundary down, or open up the boundary and say I love you, and you try to do it with love. It's like please, like get help. And we have our choices to do that, and we all have to make those choices all the time. And in the case of this song, I just thought I'd write my friend a personal note, like what I would say to him. And it's a little heavy-handed, but that's just what came out.
Nice. And you have the Gibson J45 named
Yeah,
Paco. Is that on the road?
that's my guitar. Yeah, I travel with that guitar. I've had it for a couple of decades, and I played it on the streets of Europe for 7 years.
Yeah, become attached to something that's like your comfort tool, and that can it travels with you everywhere. It better not
Yeah,
go anywhere else on the plane.
no, I don't sleep well if it's in the car at night. I
Yeah,
have to, of course, I bring it inside, and then sometimes I have to bring it into the bedroom I'm in. I don't know why. It's just like
yeah,
it's probably some ADD or OCD going on there. But yeah, it is a comfort thing for me. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. A lot of artists have that too. And you've gotten to know Lucinda Williams quite well.
Yeah, I got to travel with Lucinda, and she sings on one of my albums, an album called Ammunition. She sings on a song called Back to the Pain. And I sang it to her at a party one night, and she just joined me on the harmony. And I wish we would have recorded that version right there, that very first time. But yeah, she's a mentor to me. She was a mentor. Like she's one of the greatest songwriters of all time, one of the greatest artists of all time. one of the greatest true blue songwriters, creators that I've, that's ever walked the, the universe.
It's
And I'm
true.
really lucky to have been able to cross her path.
Yeah, she always said go with your gut. She wasn't really into doing the sound checks. I think magic was always just caught on the first take with somebody like that, like you were saying.
Man, yeah, well, yeah, on the road, she never sound checked. I sound checked for her. But she's just, she's one of the greats. She's on one of the greats. That's all. That's all you need to say. It's like if you're not familiar with her music, you can start anytime. And that's the same I'd say with John Prine. He's just one of the greats, and it's really sad when we lost him during the pandemic. But I was comforted with the idea that his music will bring comfort to people for eternity. So.
And he gave you good advice. Yeah, I mean, back in the 90s, pretty much
Yeah,
saying, hey,
I
go
start
for it.
writing my own songs. It was time. That was uh, that was his advice to me, and I took it.
Yeah, yeah, he worked hard at it too and was able to reinvent himself in finding the discipline and becoming a first class songwriter and performer for sure. Yeah, he's
Absolutely, and I'd say in a class all his own, really. No major huge hits, but he was able to sustain this beautiful thing. I mean, he had hits in our world of the songwriters world, but like not like a pop hit kind of stuff, and just a beautiful person. Also not just his great songwriting that had influence on all songwriters, but just a great human being that has an influence on positive human beings and keeps us going. And Towns Van Zandt gave me some advice too, and
mm,
he would be another guy that us songwriters look to uh, as a great songwriter. Most songwriters might think that about him, or some have different opinions, but um, it's his personal life a little more turmoil and chaos there, and maybe not something to not be admired so much. And you find this a lot in creative greats, right? You just find some turmoil in their lives. But as a writer, he's up there on the Parnassus up on Mount Olympus or whatever. But the advice he gave me, Towns Van Zandt said to me to take the money and run. Um, yeah, John Prine told me to start writing my own songs. I took his advice. Towns told me to take the money and run. Uh, and a little after I had started writing my own songs, and I did not take his advice because I don't have the, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now.
true, true. Find Your Way. It's a great album, and the title track has a really nice layer of strings. Was that a decision made by Leroy or just collectively? It's
That's
a
a
really nice,
production thing, man. Leroy
yeah.
Stagger definitely has a big part in that, and it's the pedal steel and violin together can make um, the pleasant illusion of an orchestra. Yeah.
Nice, nice, great. And you're available on LP,
Oh
CD,
yeah.
all of it, wherever you get that music.
Yep. Wherever you listen to music, you can find it. And if you want a physical copy, I'd go to blackmesarecords.com. They're based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's my friend Chris Payne. And he runs that record company. And he will gladly ship you the vinyl or CD of your choice. And there's special wax mage, this special colored vinyl you can get, and all the different ideas. Otherwise, you can find me selling it out of my car as I travel
Yeah.
across the country.
Still have
Yeah, you
that
can find me on
troubadour in
tour.
you.
Yeah, I do. It's still there. I can't deny it. And yeah, just jumping in swimming pools from here to San Diego, and keep
Nice.
on going and singing songs, telling stories, creating new stories. I appreciate everybody, at Black Mesa, including Wendy, our friend, who helped set this up, and
Yeah.
just amazing, amazing people that are looking out for the independents like myself.
Yeah. It's so good. Everybody needs to get out there and get it. What record store did you enjoy going to when you were in Akron? I remember in Cleveland, I was always going to Coventry to get my
I
vinyl.
remember that one. That one stands out more than my Akron one. I gotta say, like, you know, I I wasn't the little kid going into the record store in Akron as much as I was the college student going in the record store in Columbus.
Ah,
So in
Columbus.
Columbus, Ohio, I was going into Used Kids and School Kids and
Yeah.
Magnolia Thunder Pussy
I know.
and yeah, those three. And now today it's Lost Weekend Records is my favorite record store. Lost Weekend Records is based in Columbus, Ohio. My friend Kyle runs it, and it's in the basement of this house, or like the bottom floor of a house, and it's just really cool. And he's holding on to a bunch of copies of my new record. So yeah, you can check out Lost Weekend Records in Columbus if you hear this.
Yeah, I kind of remember. I on Coventry there was the record exchange and there was another one too. And it's just
Yeah,
like the atmosphere. Gosh, I really miss a lot of that stuff. The
yeah.
atmosphere, being able to
This
hold that stuff. Yeah.
the snarkiness of the record guy that you would make
Yeah.
fun of you. He would make fun of you if you were buying a Phil Collins album or
Yeah.
something. You know, unnecessary. You know, I mean, I just loved that. Like those characters that are in High Fidelity, like I had those guys in my life in Columbus, and their names were Ron House, Dan Dow, Jerry Wick. These guys are sweet as pie, and they loved rock and roll, and they loved music, and they were all great musicians. The three, um, and but they, they would needle me for sure. That's just the way it was. But they were classic record store proprietors. Also, I have to say Kurt Schubert and also Jeff Evans, man, who was fronted the Gibson Brothers. He was a classic, just a real sweetheart who loved rock and roll and loved the history of music, and eventually moved down to Memphis.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for your time and stopping by. And you're just on tour. Go out there and get it. And where's the website we can go to learn more about you?
Oh, I'm gonna add Mike Rep to that. That's
Cool.
important, man. There's just like I'm
Get him
thinking of
in
the
there.
guys just and they were all dudes, yeah. Um, they just loved music, and it was a contagious thing the way they wanted you to hear some new stuff. I'm gonna be on tour for the next eternity, and you can find out at timeaston.com. I'm on
Cool.
all the socials. I'm easy to get a hold of. If you've
Good deal.
made it this far, and thank you so much for talking to me about this stuff. I love doing it, and I love teaching, and I love remaining teachable myself. So you can find me at timeaston.com, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and all the stuff. I'm easy to get a hold of, and you can write me if you're really feeling it and you want to write me a snail mail letter. I
Wow.
got PO Box 322, Nashville, Tennessee 37116. And you'll find me there, and you can write me a note, and I'll write you a letter back.
Oh, sweet. Good
Yeah.
deal. Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for accepting my tardiness. I like to be on time and honor other people's time, so I really appreciate your patience with me there.
Thank you so much. Take
All
care.
right.
And thanks for listening. I'm so glad you dropped by to my corner of the world and over to you. If you notice in his music, it sounds has a lot of Dylan-esque qualities to it. It was a very, very big influence. Great a new album. Go out there, check it out. Got 10 wonderful new tracks. And one of my favorite is called Little Brother. That just really, really zings in there. But had a great time talking with Tim. And stay tuned. I have more episodes coming.